Artio is a guardian who is able to change forms from being a druid to becoming a bear. While you could play Artio as a guardian who supports the hunter, fuck that. Play her solo where she belongs. Artio is one of the most skill-intensive characters in the game due to the fact that she has 7 abilities instead of the normal 4. You will have to manage the cooldowns and effects of all 7 abilities in order to master Artio. Artio has access to 7 abilities due to her 4, which lets her switch forms and access a second hotbar. Think Cthulhu ult, but it has no cooldown. Artio's passive causes enemy gods to lose protections when they take damage from her abilities. Her first ability is Energy Surge, which deals damage to enemies in a cone in front of her while healing herself and nearby allies. Artio's second ability is Entangling Vines, which causes nearby enemy gods to be crippled and debuffed. Her third ability is called Life Tap, which is a channeled ability that drains life and slows enemies that roots if they are hit for the whole duration. Her ultimate is Shapeshift, which switches Artio between Druid and Bear form, giving her access to another set of abilities. In Bear form, Artio has access to Maul Prey, which damages enemies in a cone in front of her. Next is Ferocious Roar, which stuns nearby enemies and gives Artio protections. Lastly is Heavy Charge, which causes Artio to charge, which will damage and slow any enemies hit. For the build, we are going to pick Vampiric Shroud as our starter item. This item gives us sustainability through health and lifesteal alongside damage. It has 2 evolved versions. Pick Sacrificial Shroud if you want to kill yourself. Pick Blood-Soaked Shroud if you're not trying to troll the game. Sacrificial Shroud is terrible in Artio since you will be using tons of abilities, some of which don't do damage, which causes the drawback of abilities costing health to be far too damaging. Next, grab Shoes of Focus as your boots, because with 7 abilities to manage, you really need the focus. Then, pick Breastplate of Valor for its physical protection alongside 20% CDR, and after that, Stone of Gaia. Now, grab Ethereal Staff for some damage, and then finally finish with Mantle of Discord, because it's cool and costs a lot. If you're finding that you have trouble against mages, maybe switch out the Mantle of Discord for something like a Genji's Guard. Artio attacks with melee, despite the fact she uses a Druid Staff. Because of this, she needs to be pretty close to the action, but that complements her abilities, such as the charge, the stun, the roots, the damage, etc. Using everything I've already discussed with her abilities alongside the build will make you pretty tanky and do a decent amount of damage. This works in both solo and arena, where I prefer to play Artio. The sustainability from Vampiric Shroud makes you a threat early game, while the tankiness of your build will make you an essential part of the team moving forward. Utilize the fact that you can enter very quickly with your charge and stun, and then follow it up with a root to keep enemies in place and allow your teammates to push in and do the damage. Earlier in the match, you should be prioritizing going in when your team is ready and doing as much damage as you possibly can. Early game, just getting off one quick stun and some damage is more than enough to get you the edge. Don't prioritize minions, as you are still a guardian if you're in arena. However, if you are playing in a Conquest match, then there is no issue with prioritizing minions instead of the enemy early on. In fact, auto skill may not be the best idea on Artio due to the fact that her stun isn't as useful early game as leveling up some of her damaging abilities. Because of this, in Conquest, you may want to not level the 2 early in the match and instead purely focus on your 1 and your 3 to upgrade your damage. Later, when you begin grouping up with your team, put points into your 2 so you can apply roots and stuns. In Arena, your goal should be to go in with the team and help them in the team fights. A good combo I like to use is to start in bear form, charge in with your 3, stun with your 2, Then switch back over to Druid form, where you then use your 2 in Druid form, which will keep enemies from running away. Then use your root with your 3 and try to land all of the hits, which will then root the enemies. Then use your 1 for damage, switch back into bear form, and use your 1 for even more damage. Doing all of this should be extremely helpful in attempting to win the game.